You have slogans, we will unite the Arab world, we will liberate Palestine. And this we heard on Tahrir and in Egyptian streets. We don't want any more of this Egyptian collaboration with the Israel state. Listen, one day we resist together against a common enemy like Israel. We have to join our forces in the resistance. But when Hezbollah is doing neoliberal policies with the help of different political groups, I criticize them.
Okay. The common enemy is Israel. Now, where have you heard that before? Where? Let me show you what my theory is, and I stand by it. Just everybody on the left, this is my theory, and I stand by every word of it. Groups from the hardcore socialist and communist left and extreme Islam will work together because of the common enemy of Israel and the Jews. So here it is, confirmation. Now what are we going to do with this information? The ends justify the means. These socialists actually believe, and this is where it gets tough, they actually believe that they're going to be able to team up and work with radical Islam and then stop them in the end from taking over the entire globe or wiping out Israel, which I don't know how. They actually believe they'll win in the end. Good luck with that one.
What is happening is not only good for the region, it's good for the whole world, because it's threatening the capitalist system, it's threatening the global system as we know it, and it's going to liberate the Arab world, but it might liberate the whole world. And every liberation of people in this region is a step forward for the liberation of Palestine, because this is also one of the main objectives of this revolution. Even though it's a slogan, it's repeated. When we had in Cairo last week, people chanting, 3 million people chanting, we will go, and the revolution will go until the liberation of Palestine.
Okay, go until the liberation of Palestine. Palestine, in Cairo. I thought it was all about the evil Mubarak and how the youth just love Thomas Jefferson and George Washington. It's 1776 all over again. They want the Western way of life. Why are they trying to threaten it? Because it's not and never has been about freedom, at least on the organized level. And you can see this now on how it's being framed. We should have seen it coming. I should have noticed this before as evidence. It's the liberation of Palestine. When we saw this, I asked our staff to go back and look, because we're glazing over the push Israel into the sea part. But if the news anchors would pull out, the Tahrir confetti away from their eyes and looked a little closer, they would notice something that I didn't even notice until today. Look, the Palestinian flag in Tahrir Square. If they would have looked a little closer in Greece, they might have noticed this. Oh, the Palestinian flag in Greece as well. If you would have looked a little closer even at Scotland, there it is, the Palestinian flag in Scotland. How about that? It's almost like radicals everywhere are uniting against the common enemy of Israel and the United States. But more importantly, if you listen to what he said, it's not enough to unite against something, you have to be for something. UBL was against the West and Israel and capitalism, but he didn't make it. This new group of radicals, which has the same goal, is against the same thing, but more importantly, they have figured out the key to the Western heart. It's the plight of the oppressed, this time the plight of the Palestinians. So they will scoop up the useful idiots, the college kids, and they will use every single image they possibly can and mirror Gandhi or MLK, because the plight of the oppressed wins. It's a Madison Avenue trick. They have re-imaged themselves, not as killers and terrorists, with a complicit press. The Islamic extremists now are re-imaging themselves as Martin Luther King. But let me show you two pictures side by side. These men are not the same. This is the spiritual leader of the Muslim Brotherhood, and his dream is to kill the Jews. These two men are also not the same. This is Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, and his dream is to kill the Jews. Let me show you another one. This photo is from the Civil Rights March in Tennessee, and the other is the Gaza flotilla. These are not the same movements. The followers of Dr. Martin Luther King never screamed or chanted, "Kill the Jew." They never screamed, "Remember Calabar." They never took pipes out and guns and beat people to death while screaming, "Kill the Jew." Those who marched with Martin Luther King were instructed specifically to follow the teachings of Jesus Christ. Again, this is not rocket scientist. It doesn't take a genius to say which way the guns are beginning to be aimed. Not only are they not coming with guns a-blazing, we know now what their strategy will be. We saw it last year with the flotilla. We saw it this year in Nakba Day. They will flood the borders, and they will force Israel to defend itself and provoke them to act out, and then snap as many pictures as they can of the injured, and the world will react. I know this will happen, as much as I knew in February what would happen then. We now have verification and video that this is true. We can't wait this time for the video of the things I am telling you that are coming to be true. We must link our arms together in our own communities and be a force for good and not for evil. We're going to take you back to something that we talked about almost a year ago on this program, but it all ties into what you're seeing now in Israel and the Middle East. All of the anti-Israel movement, which is being masked now as pro-Palestinian to cobble together the largest coalition possible, is being orchestrated by the radical left and radical Islamists. They all believe that the free market and capitalism, that's us, America, the West, and Israel, are oppressing the entire world. I have mentioned the Freedom Flotilla, which, by the way, the Turkish Islamic activists who are members of the IHH organization and who were all aboard the flotilla last year, you remember, with the pipes, they were also at the violent Nakba Day demonstrations that we showed you a couple of weeks ago. They're going to be on this flotilla as well. The flotilla is being put together with the help of Code Pink and also these two, Bill Ayers and Bernadine Dorn. I think these two smoke too much dope, and they're still living the 1960s. But, believe it or not, they are way ahead, gang. They are the founders of the Weather Underground, a domestic terrorist organization. I'm going to show you some audio here and video of Bernadine Dorn. This is new video, and it was run on RT, Russia Today. It is a government arm, propaganda in our own country. Why have you not seen this video yet? Watch.
The fact that we are radicals today, the fact that we, think that the real terrorist is the American government, state terrorism unleashed against the world.
There's new video. I'm sorry, that's not it. There's new video that we will post at glennbeck.com that is from Russia Today from last week, where she is very, very clear, and a Russian journalist asking her all kinds of questions in English, and it's all about the oppression. I don't know about you, but I get all warm and fuzzy inside listening to her, and people like her, and she is influencing the Arab Spring, which, by the way, just got $40 billion from the G8 last week. Now, I don't know how they divvy that up exactly, but guess what? Your tax dollars are part of the G8, so you're funding this glorious Arab Spring that, remember, is only about freedom, and definitely not fundamental transformation of the globe or the destruction of Israel or America. They hate America. It is the oppressor. How do I know? The Weather Underground. We showed you this manifesto about a year ago, and it's all about convincing people that they are oppressed by someone, and then they get all those oppressed people to unite. Let me play Bernadine Dorn again. Here.
White youth must choose sides now. We must either fight on the side of the oppressed or be on the side of the oppressor. Got it?
Let me give you two things out of this. You don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows. This is from 1969. See if this sounds familiar. The contradiction between the revolutionary peoples and the imperialist headed by the United States is the principal contradiction in the contemporary world. The development of this contradiction is promoting the struggle of the people of the whole world against U.S. imperialism and its lackeys. Also goes on to say The strategy which flows in this manifesto, which I contend a year ago is the blueprint of what's happening in the world, the strategy which flows from this is what Che called creating 2, 3, and many Vietnams, to mobilize the struggle so sharply in so many places that the imperialist cannot possibly deal with it all. Since it is essential to their interests, they will try to deal with it all and will be defeated and destroyed in the process. Does Libya make a little more sense? This is what is happening now. And it is the Palestinians are again being used and being imaged, and we are the oppressors. If we allow this to happen, if we allow the world community to buy this garbage, that somehow Israel is the evil oppressor, the tiny little country ruining the entire Middle East, not the Syrians who are gunning down their own protesters, not the Iranians who are slaughtering and stoning homosexuals to death, not the Saudis who women cannot drive. It's an abomination. No, it somehow or another is Israel. If we sit silently and allow the world to fall for this nonsense, we lose not only any foothold for the Western way of life in the Middle East, but the Western way of life itself. You embolden those radicals. It is the end of the Western way of life if your neighbors don't wake up. It is the ancient battle of good versus evil, the ancient battle of kill the Jew. And silence in the face of evil itself is evil. The question is, will you stand, and will your neighbors be awake enough to stand as well?
Tomorrow, Exposing Evil, the history of the Muslim Brotherhood's Nazi roots. Information you won't see anywhere else. 5 p.m.